Welcome to the ValuePros Show, where Value Pros get value ready. Welcome. In this episode, I'm joined with Mike Wilkinson, author of 2 wonderful books on value and a world-class value training professional. We dive deep into the critical topic of being client ready. We explore why client readiness is essential in today's competitive B2B sales landscape, and we provide practical steps for sales professionals to elevate their game. From respecting your client's time to leveraging AI tools for efficient research, we cover 5 key strategies to help you stand out as a true value professional. Whether you're a seasoned sales leader or just starting your career, this episode offers valuable insights to enhance your client interactions and drive success. Enjoy this episode. Well, Mike, here we are again, and I am so excited just to talk about this topic. Why be client ready? And it's a huge issue. And I'll go ahead and just give a little bit of context. Mike, you and I and the rest of the ValuePros team, we've been working on this framework and we cast it and it's playing out so well, but it's built around 4 phases of being value ready. And with each one of these phases, there's key disciplines that you need to have, readiness dimensions that you need. And so we've got this whole series of videos. And if you haven't watched the other videos, for everybody listening or watching, please head over to YouTube or your podcast player. You're going to get value ready across all 10 dimensions, which are really powerful. So right now we're in the phase of building trust, where we're talking about being credibility ready, client ready, and narrative ready. So Mike and I are going to talk about client readiness today, that second dimension that you're either seeing on YouTube or you're listening to now. So that's the context for what we're covering. Mike, any thoughts before we kind of dig into this topic about be client ready?
I can think of an awful lot of reasons why we need to be client ready after one of the career is people often think they are client ready, but when you talk to clients about what they see with the people who come to visit them, they're anything but. And I know that's something that we're going to be exploring.
Yeah, quite a bit. Let's jump in. I pulled together what I call 3 nasty stats.
These are very nasty stats.
Very nasty stats. 82, 62, and 59. And Houston, we do have a problem. Let me lay this out. So 82% of B2B buyers complain that sales professionals they deal with are underprepared. So client ready? No. And that's coming through. And then the 62 stands for 62% want salespeople to demonstrate experience with and knowledge of their industry. So there's just this expectation that somebody's going to show up literally relevant to them. They're going to have contact and hopefully some insight in that. And then the 59 stands for 59% of buyers think that the sales emails they receive are irrelevant. It's so sad. Now that we're in this hyper AI and hyper automation, let's scale personalization phase in the market. It's just freaking horrifying. I get all this stuff through email, through LinkedIn and everything. Obviously, they don't know anything about me, even though they're lying about it. They're saying, hey, I love your profile. Gosh, you and your esteemed career, we should connect. Blatant lie. They haven't even looked, and I've got a LinkedIn Premium, and I can see. So just all this at scale stuff makes it even worse. And then I don't know, Mike, if you've seen personalization at scale, but they might try and feign, hey, we went to the same university, but it just breaks down. Not cool. Well, Mike, the big punchline here, this stat isn't on this sheet, but this year Gartner released a stat, 75% of buyers prefer to have a seller-free buying experience. And I would contend not being client ready would be a key issue there to address, and why there's a little bit of hate out there toward the sellers in the B2B context.
Well, 75% is hardly surprising when you look at the 82, 62, and 59.
Yeah.
And I know we've spoken before about some of the Forrester research. It backs up all of this and was done some years ago. And it just seems to me that things really haven't changed an awful lot, and there's a lot still to be done.
Yeah. So it hurts, but I'm just grateful that we're revenue leaders, and both from a position standpoint, and then I always think of sales reps as leaders because they're influencing others. So revenue leaders that are top of their game as individual contributors. And the whole spirit of this is how do we move from being a typical sales rep to being a value professional? We'll talk about that. And it relates to being client ready. I do see a lot of sellers, and myself guilty as charged in the past. I'm more conscious of it now just because I get an opportunity to research and speak and think about these things on a daily basis. But a lot of people don't understand the consequences, the harm, or the opportunity around being client ready. And I also contend that this stuff isn't taught. I wasn't taught this in school. These are things that I've kind of learned the hard way through experience in the School of Hard Knocks. I certainly want to accelerate that for our listeners and watchers, how to be better at being client ready. And the benefits, Mike, just talking about why be client ready, there's 3 key reasons I could offer of why you need to show up client ready. First reason, you're going to stand apart from the pack. You're going to be the value star versus the typical seller that doesn't do their homework, doesn't premeditate, doesn't show up with relevance. You will stand apart. Secondly, you get to join forces with your clients and buyers. You're in their mind. You can understand context and understand the way they think. So that just puts you ahead of the game where you can start to co-create some value together, especially with the solution you have to offer. And then thirdly, because you're in that position to create value, you can see things that others can't. You can connect the dots that others can't, and you get the opportunity to sell that value to your client. That's what it means to be client ready. Those are some 3 key reasons, Mike, I'm thinking about. What about yourself?
I think they are just so important because one of the things that does do is it differentiates you when compared with everybody else that they see. I always think that the thing in the client's mind is always, why should I spend time with you? Why should I invest my incredibly valuable time talking to you? And if you rock up and you're not prepared, then the answer to the question is, I'm not going to bother, which is why we just reinforce their thinking that they might as well have a rep-free buying experience.
Yeah, and that's just a big lose.
Ends up with the buyer being incapable of making really well-informed decisions because they're trying to do it all on their own.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, at one point in time, I was trying to avoid sellers in a retail situation, and I did all my research online. I tried to buy a Mac Mini, and I had the philosophy that I automatically carry a separate keyboard, a Bluetooth keyboard, because I'm a 2-screen guy. So that's always in my backpack. I could just stick the Mac Mini in my backpack. It's a cheaper device and higher performance than my normal laptop. And then I normally carry extra screens. So as I travel, so I'm not going, hey, this is perfect. And I did my research online, saw the specifications, etc. I ordered it. It showed up, and there was no way in hell, Mike, that was going into my backpack in my travel bag.
There's a lot you anticipate.
Yeah. A quick call to a sales rep would clarify that. There's laptops out there, Bruce, for a reason. Buyers have blind spots, and when you're not aligned, everybody loses. But again, I love talking about the upside too. And like you so adequately stated, that you get a chance to stand apart from the others. You get to win that the others don't. You're creating this differentiated selling and buying experience.
Yeah, for me, though, Bruce, it's about earning the right to have this kind of conversation with the buyer in the first place.
Let's go ahead and shift a gear into how do we do this? How do we earn that right? How do we show up in a different way? So, Mike, we've got this beautiful assessment. It's called the Value Ready Assessment. It's off our website at valuepros.io off the resource tab. And then I'm going to talk about it in just a little bit more detail. But within there on client readiness and all the different dimensions, we have a scale, a 5-point scale with explanations for what does 1 equal, 2 equal, 3, 4, 5. And we're trying to paint a picture on this dimension, client readiness. Where are you? Are you novice? Are you someplace in the middle? Or are you a master? And let me explain just a little bit more what that means. So again, we've got the value readiness assessment across 10 different dimensions. Client ready, that's where we explain your understanding industry trends, pressures, internal challenges, that your solution impacts on the buyer. That's a bit of a definition. But how do you know if you are client ready? Are you novice, developing, competent, proficient, or master? And we'll go and just look into that. So I'll just read something off my desk out loud for everybody listening and watching. But novice, as it relates to client readiness, They lack understanding of client industries and dynamics, often presenting generic solutions without considering specific client needs. They rarely conduct research or preparation, leading to interactions that are unprepared and irrelevant, demonstrating little respect for the client's time, as you would say.
That's the sort of person you want on your team. But these are the people who still believe that you can wing it.
Yeah. Spray and pray and try to see what happens.
Yeah.
I even heard the other day, my buyers are dumb. Yeah, I'm the smart guy in the room. I can wing it and make it work. And sadly, in this day and age, that's not a winning strategy, or not as...
I think that's the point, Bruce. Times have moved on, and the days when you could wing it and get away with it are past.
Yeah. And clients are more scrutinizing, more people on the buying team. Budgets, hurdles are a little bit lower for approval, meaning more people need. It's a bit rough out there. Now, what does a master look like in client readiness? So a master exhibits exceptional understanding of client industries and dynamics, acting as a thought leader and advisor, conducts in-depth research and preparation, demonstrating a profound desire to help and respect for the client's time, providing transformative solutions that drive client success. I hope everybody can hear and see the juxtaposition between the novice and the master. But how do we close that gap? How do we move towards mastery? That's the big question. What are some of the steps that we can take to get client ready? So, Mike, are you ready? Are you strapped in? Let's look at some steps that we can take.
I'm ready to go. Definitely ready to go.
You bet. So I'd say the first step in being client ready, Mike, is get into the mindset of your client's time is very valuable, and you need to respect their time. There's a gentleman named Stu in industry who wrote a bestseller called How to Get a Meeting with Anyone. And he taught me a long time ago that, Bruce, when you're meeting with some of the executives you meet with, chances are their hourly rate, the cost to their organization for their time is about 10 zero cents a row. And I've had the opportunity to meet with senior executives. I was in the boardroom at Adobe, et cetera. I've had a really fun career in being able to interact with high-cost people like that. Might not cost that much, but my God, very often I'll ask a buyer, hey, would you have been willing to spend money on that dialogue you just had? And they'd say, hell no, that sucks. Where are you in your respect as you show up with relevant to them? And I'd say that's a mindset shift. Respect their time.
It goes a long way to answering or to recognizing that you need to have a blooming good answer to the question, why should I invest my time with you? But it's not just time, it is money.
Yeah, time, money, energy, focus, priority. I loved what you said earlier. You've got to earn it, and you do that by being client ready. And that exudes respect when you are client ready, when you're hitting.
I think more than that, if you're not client ready, it actually shows disrespect.
Yeah, totally. To push a little bit deeper on this, Mike, a couple of things that I'd like to say. A quote from Jill Conrath. She wrote many wonderful books on sales, but one of the quotes from her is, start working with your prospects as if they've already hired you. So I love you have that mindset. You got to prepare. Think of them as a teammate that you're supporting and respecting, and you're putting your energy into it as well because you want to mutually accomplish something together. So treat it that way and get prepared and get studied up. I do love that. Put in the effort. And then, Mike, I've got a challenging question for you. What's the most common mistake people make when they think they are being client ready as they think about it? What's the common pitfall that you see?
I know the answer to this, Bruce.
All right. Yeah. Okay, well, I won't test you anymore then.
There you go. You see, you've taken a hot on my thunder. You've taken my thunder.
Well, you go ahead and say then.
It's about focusing on impressing the client instead of helping the client.
Oh, I agree, Mike. You nailed it.
This comes all the way back then to just having product conversations with the client instead of client conversations.
Yeah. And we don't need to personalize to bluff. No, it's true client readiness so we can be even more relevant as we come in. So critical. And then a final quote from Bruce Scheer. Mike, I was telling you, it's crabbing season in the Puget Sound over where I live. I live on an island across from the Seattle airport, but I've been out on the boat trying to get crab and not doing all that well. But The other day I saw this beacon and I was thinking about this episode we're doing on client readiness. And I'd say being client ready isn't just about preparation. It's about becoming a beacon of trust, illuminating the path to your client's success. Man, if we could just think that way as a beacon of trust and being client ready as part of that, that is huge.
The other point I'd make about that, of course, is that beacons stand out.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing we want to do. We want to stand out from the sea of general mediocrity out there and really be a beacon of competence and capability.
You've got it. Yeah, for sure. So those are some mindset things to think about in terms of being client ready. So get the mindset straight first, but then here's some other practicals that we can get into. The second thing would be to deepen industry knowledge. So after mindset, industry knowledge is how my brain flows, the cognitive flow of how I get ready. I want to understand context of industry and what's happening outside of the four walls of that client. What are some of those trends and pressures that are getting in their way that myself and the solution that I have to bring might be able to help them with? Everything I think about is in context of how I could be useful. I need to understand their outer world, not inside the four walls of their organization, but outside. What are those trends, dynamics, and pressures that they either are concerned about or should be concerned about for the viability of their business? And Mike, one of the easiest, fastest ways to do that, I'd say, is use your favorite AI tool or tools. I personally use 3 of them regularly: Perplexity, ChatGPT, and Anthropic's Claude 3.5 Sonnet right now. I'll date this episode pretty fast because this world's so changing so fast. The big point, though, is just leverage tools to make this process efficient. And then also, if you're leveraging AI, double check your work because it likes to make things up, obviously. You don't want hallucinations. And
yeah, I completely agree. The one thing not to do with AI is copy and paste.
Yeah, and Mike, I had prepared this. I made my own custom GPT. I wanted to show it to you just for a second to show you what you can do with your research. So this is a custom GPT. And also for everybody listening and watching, we will have a free tool for you to use called Value Brief, where you don't have to pay for it. You don't have to subscribe and kill yourself with subscription fees. We'll offer our beta for free, but it'll do all this homework, and I'll just flash it.
Can I just say, Bruce, that is an amazing offer because it's a brilliant tool.
Yeah. This is
certainly is. Yeah. If anybody's listening and wondering whether it's because it's free, whether it's worth having, I can absolutely assure you that it is.
Thank you, sir. So, Mike, let me just show you this quick tool that I made, though, that people can use, and it's a custom GPT. It's called Value Brief. It's publicly listed, so you can grab it there if you have a ChatGPT account. Or we also have a beta tool that you can access off of our resource tab at valuepros.io, our own app that does even more of this. It includes LinkedIn scraping, where you can even look for points in common for breaking the ice with your buyer. So it's actually way better than this. But if you're a constant user of ChatGPT, I'm getting ready to meet with the CRO of Zuper, a company that does field services management technology. And I didn't know anything about them, but a friend of mine said, "Hey, Bruce, I'd love to introduce you to the CRO." So I just come into this, I type in, it asks me what company do you want to research, Zuper, who is your target by name or role, CRO, and then boom, this thing goes to work. Gives me a profile of Zuper. Where are they in annual revenue? What's their business focus, recent performance? What's going on in their market? Industry trends, competitive pressures. Ooh, that's going to be good for me to talk about. What would be the problem that I could solve for them with my solution? Inconsistent value communication. What's the desired outcome I could bring to them? Enhanced value clarity. And then what's the showcase solution? Value enablement types of capabilities, especially with Mike here with us in this episode doing some killer training, and we've got tools for them, et cetera, ROI calculator. So we've got a lot to bring in. This is in more detail. What's the cost of inaction if they don't move forward with us? All this is AI generated based on the prompts I gave it. What's the target buyer information? Just what are their objectives and challenges? And how would I talk to them in an email? How would I talk to them in a voicemail script? all this types of things that's 100% customized to them. So Mike, isn't that just fundamentally awesome what you can get these tools?
I just think that it's an incredible tool. And if anybody's asking themselves whether it's worth having because it's free, I can absolutely assure you that it is. Just look at the information that it allows you to get literally in moments.
Yeah, it's awesome. Of course, as a value professional, you need to ingest it. You need to internalize it. You need to make sense out of that so you can show up with relevance. But man, what a starting.
That's actually a really good point, Bruce, because it's not an excuse to limit the amount of research you do. It's a tool that will help you to do it in greater depth than you have done before.
Yeah, more depth. And also like AI, it does make stuff up. So you need to have some checks and balances so you don't show up like a buffoon. Yeah, you definitely need to check your work. And that's why I use literally 3 different tools as I'm looking at things. Verifying. I like to verify before I use it, especially in front of executives. I do not want to waste time.
Where did you get that information from, they ask you?
Yeah. Well, Perplexity, I can cite sources, which is beautiful. So on to the next point here, point number 3 in being client ready, I'd say use industry language. One of our affiliates, Todd Snellgrove, who, Mike, you guys are best friends, but in the value space, I did a beautiful project with American Express where we had to do industry profiles for each area that we were selling some of their solutions into. But as part of those playbooks, we had a vocabulary section. And I'm always looking for the 25 to 50 words that I need to know in a certain industry space. Also, words that client might be using where I don't want to be caught flat-footed. And what that means, if you're playing basketball or any sport, if you're flat-footed, you're not going to be reacting very fast. You're going to be lumbering out there as everybody else is running circles around you. And especially if you're dealing with buyers with a high clock speed, you need to pivot and move fast. So I need to understand those words. And when you don't, very often they can sense it. You just lost trust and credibility. It's no good. There's another technique that you could use. You understand the words and kind of dig in there. Or another thing, especially for bigger deals that you might be on, bring your industry expert with you as a value professional. Just make sure somebody has that relevance and context and you're not being caught flat-footed. So we talked about outside the 4 walls, the trends, the dynamics, the changes, what's going on outside. Now we need to understand also what's happening inside. And you do that by looking at a 10K report that a company needs to file, their annual report, their quarterly investor calls, if they have them, if they're publicly listed. There's a number of different sources. Analyst firms do a great job of this. I often use one called Seeking Alpha because it'll share some information on private companies as well. What I'm going for there is I'm trying to figure out what are their issues internally, what are they grappling with, and most important, what are their top-level strategies and the initiatives that might be in play against their go-to-market strategies, what they're facing. I talked about that company, Zuper. Oh my God, they've got just a whole plethora of competitors. They have to differentiate. That is so obvious to me that that's one of their corporate initiatives. How do we stand apart and building capability for us to do that? So I need to meet them there. And how can we see those points of differentiation and amplify it, communicate about that, and quantify the value associated with that differentiation? I know that's going to land really well because I'm doing that research on the company, both outside and then also inside.
Yeah, I think that's hugely important, especially for many salespeople who seem to think that their products are being commoditized when if they just took a step back and thought about it and really began to investigate where their differentiation lies, I very rarely come across a purely commoditized business or product. I don't think they exist.
And that's just so beautiful, Mike, and why I love you. You're inquisitive and you're solving mysteries, the value mystery that you
solve the value mystery.
Love. And that's what you need to do in finding those capability that client brings as appreciation. Then how do we shine a light on that and communicate and quantify the value? This is so critical. And that comes through company research and conversation, of course. And not all company research is desk-based, especially before I'm meeting with executives. If I have insiders at that company, call them, say, hey, I've got this meeting. What else do you think I should talk about? What do you think is going to be top priority here? How do I position this? And getting really good feedback and that insider intelligence to be even more relevant and respecting that
Yeah, I think that's great. I wonder how many people actually do that, because I think that really does give you an edge.
I'll divert just a little bit. One of my best friends, we were in an MBA program together, Mike, at University of Oregon. And don't hold that against me. I know you're across the pond, so you won't. You don't have any favorites over here, except for mine, of course, my alma mater. But one of my buddies, he's been president club multiple times. Now he's just an amazing sales leader. And the first job he got, he knew he wanted to work for Abbott Laboratories. It was almost Abbott Laboratories or bust. They were his favorite company. And what did he do to get the job? He went out to hospitals talking to buyers of their product, just representing himself. Just out of curiosity, he got meetings, talked to them about their experience with Abbott, and then he used that intelligence in his interview with Abbott, got the job immediately. He sold himself, in this instance, to Abbott by being client ready and doing that homework, but even the field work, going out to their customers and talking to them.
It just makes all the difference. We talked about your beacon here on. How do you stand out?
Yeah.
I mean, I can imagine that of all the people they spoke to, he would have been the only one who would have done that. And he would have stood out above, head and shoulders above everybody else.
Absolutely. But value professionals, that's what we do, man. That's the game. That's what we signed up for. That's what we believe in. Yeah. And the average person, no way in heck. They're turning and burning and moving through and moving fast. Oh, shiny.
Yeah, the word you use there is actually the average person.
Yeah.
And if you want to be average, you're never going to be a value pro.
Yeah. It's a big opportunity, big issue. Mike, let's talk about the fifth point here. And that's what we're calling align solutions with needs. That's the fifth thing you need to do to be client ready. So as you're doing all that homework and just talking to people and getting your head around that client and the opportunity you could bring for them, the problem you're solving, the opportunity you could bring, you're thinking back to how does that relate with the solution that we have to offer? You can do that if you have a generic solution. How do I, at least at a verbal level, contextualize that for that client? But sometimes if you're a rep and you have a bigger stable of capabilities and modules and things that you can bring to that client, you can think through what would be an ideal solution for them and then characterize it that way. I was working with Alcatel-Lucent, Mike, and we were focused on the hospitality sector. And we noticed that most hotels at that time had horrifying Wi-Fi. Many still do, but at that time it was pretty much across the board horrifying, and you were paying for it. It was just a disaster. So they had some really amazing technology that could take advantage of copper wiring and that property to accelerate internet performance, Wi-Fi performance. And we could go in and truly talk about the needs of hospitality, attracting and keeping guests, building loyalty, et cetera, and how internet's so darn important, and then bring that tailored solution to them and aligning that solution with really concrete needs. So you can do it at a generic level, but then also you can tailor customized solutions for clients, depending on your context, of course.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Well, we covered a lot of ground. Those are 5 key things that you can do to improve your performance in being client ready. Mike, anything else you'd like to leave our esteemed audience with here?
Just listening to what we've been saying, for me, this is the foundation upon which the sale is going to be built. This is the way that we go about earning the right to have those kinds of conversations with the customer and standing out. And really answering for them the question that whether they articulate it or not, in the back of their minds, they're asking themselves, why should I invest my valuable time with this person?
Absolutely. And the interesting thing about these readiness dimensions of being value ready, you need all 10 to gain interest and to close that deal and make sure your customer is successful with the promise you made. You need all 10 dimensions. So we just covered client readiness, but for everybody listening and watching, if you're watching the show, you can listen on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast player. If you want to see some of this content as well, the listeners, please jump into the YouTube channel, just at ValuePros Show. That's all one word and then space show. So check it out and you can learn more about the other dimensions, or as we said, head off to the website, valuepros.io. Under the resources tab, you'll get a whole readiness assessment that you can play with there and up your game where you see weak that need to be dealt with. Well, Mike, great episode as per norm. Thanks so much.
It's a pleasure, Bruce. It's been great fun.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the ValuePros Show. We hope you found our discussion on client readiness informative and actionable. Remember, being client ready is not just about preparation. It's about becoming a beacon of trust, illuminating the path to your client's success. If you want to learn more about other dimensions of being value ready, check our YouTube channel or visit valuepros.io for our comprehensive readiness assessment that you're going to find under our resources tab. Until next time, keep striving to be the value professional your clients deserve.